The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are those of Green Acres and our guests. These general gardening tips and suggestions may work for you, as well as those from alternative sources. When using any garden products or tools, read and follow all label directions. And learn how to make your yard summer strong at bewatersmart.info.
The Green Acres Garden Podcast is the podcast dedicated to helping gardeners hone their growing skills while we celebrate our love of plants. So whether you're new to growing or a seasoned gardener, you're sure to learn something new. Join the fun as we have conversations with world-class growers, passionate green thumbs, and professional garden experts from Green Acres Nursery and Supply. Listen every week. We'll answer questions you didn't know you had. Don't stop thinking about your garden. Don't stop. Spring will soon be here. Hey there, garden friends, and welcome all you beautiful gardeners, growers, and plant lovers out there. I'm your host, Kevin Jordan. This is the Green Acres Garden Podcast, and I am your fellow plant lover. Back in studio for another great episode this week. I mean, we got a banger. We have so much to talk about. There's so much going on, but I'm sitting here up to my side is the ace of audio, my spud bud, Austin Blank.
Hello. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the show. And thank you, Kevin, for starting us out so strongly with a song. It's been a while since we've heard you sing.
I know, and you're the musically talented one, which is funny.
Maybe I'll have to join you.
Are we starting a band?
We're starting.
Did we just become best friends?
Yes.
Okay. Well, Austin, we have a great episode. There's so much to talk about. We're going to get into perennial vegetables, taters, and so much more.
I love it.
But before we get into that, I was thinking the other day, I put the kids down. I finally had a moment to relax, and I was thinking I was in my sweet spot. And then it got me thinking about being in the sweet spot out in the garden. Think about this. All the things that had to come to be for us to garden and grow. Here we are in Zone 9B, but other listeners might have their own garden zones that they're dealing with. But think about it. Earth, 4.5 billion years old, right? So that's how long it took to get to us right now, 4.5 billion years. Earth, we're 93 million miles from the sun on average. That's one astronomical unit. And we are at a 23.5 degree inclination, which means on our orbital axis. Our axis is tilted on our orbital plane. And think about thousands of years of humans developing the knowledge that we're sharing and accumulating and passing down, the tools that we've developed over the generations and the technology that we've come to now with even just drip irrigation is for one example.
Sure.
All of that to get to this point right now. Here we are. Springtime is right around the corner. And so I'm feeling we are in the sweet spot. Think about that. All those things kind of had to come together. Soil, climate, just the magical process of photosynthesis just in general. Without that, life doesn't exist on Earth quite the same way that we know it. Humans don't exist. And so it's kind of cool to think about all those things kind of clicking into place. And now we're at that sweet spot where we can grow incredible, delicious, fresh fruits and vegetables and herbs in our own side yards, backyards, porches, patios. It's pretty cool. So I'm feeling pretty motivated and fired up from just that. I think we're in the sweet spot.
That's awesome.
Think about that. So we have so much opportunity to kind of cultivate the own paradise of our imaginations we can create, I think, with a little bit of effort, time, and whatnot. So I'm fired up for that. So we're in the sweet spot. And so as I was preparing for today's episode, something came across. And so check this out right now, a little current event for you, Austin.
Okay.
So right now, as time of recording, but by the time this releases, something cool will have happened. So in the Royal Sydney Botanic Garden in Australia, pretty cool, right? Our friends from Down Under.
Okay.
There is a rare, beautiful corpse flower set to bloom. So it's right now, as we're talking, Austin, it's getting ready to bloom. And by the time people hear this, it probably already has. And what's really cool, so this is the Amorphalis titanum, also known as the stink flower, the rotting corpse flower. Massive, massive bloom. It is one of the largest single inflorescence blooms that you're going to find on a flower out there. It's huge. It's massive. It's, several feet, 4 or 5 feet tall sometimes, and several feet wide. And as it blooms, it emits this rotting stench of like a rotting corpse that, brings in flies and other pollinators and whatnot. Pretty cool. And so it takes 10 years. So a healthy,
is that what it was?
A healthy plant will only bloom like this once every 10 years.
That's wild.
And the bloom will last for about 2 to 4 days. So 24, 48 hours, and it's gone. That is ethereal.
Wow.
So pretty cool. And it's just fun to see people there taking pictures, getting all excited.
Right.
It's fun to see people juiced up about something just from nature, something beautiful.
But then are they all grossed out by the smell?
Hopefully, maybe, or you're fired up for it. I don't know. You ever smelled something weird and you're like, and you just keep smelling it? I've never done that. I've never done that. But anywho, yeah, it's like some flowers are just so pungent. You're like, this is pungent. I don't know why I like it, but I do. Like sage for me is one of those ones where it's really strong, but I just keep rubbing it, smelling it, like scratch and sniff.
I enjoy the smell of rosemary.
Oh, dude, yeah, that's a beautiful smell. Though. Yeah, so it's pretty cool. So there's a lot going on. And since we are in that sweet spot, is with that in mind that I know things are cold. I've woken up to seeing several this last few weeks, frost after frost after frost. And I got to say, I love what it's been doing to my Bermuda grass.
Oh, really?
It's
what
kind
do you
of
mean by that?
Whatever's visible at the surface that hits by the frost, it dies back a little bit.
Oh, that's good.
Now it'll come back, but it allows at least a break in its growth. It's slowing down, and a little bit's dead, and so now I can kind of rake things up, dig it out, rip it out, and so this is a great time to actually get on top of that. If you had a lot of pressure from last year, it's nice. So the frost has been good, but I'm telling you, I feel like there's a change in the air. Like the days are getting longer. It's a little chilly, but
slowly.
It's just things that we're getting some sunny weather. I even had an early season peach. It's starting to pop already. The blossoms are budding up and about ready to open. So I'm feeling like, I know spring's not here, and I don't want to put the horse, the cart in front of the horse or whatever.
Right.
But I'm fired up for spring, and I feel like that's a lot of other people are too. And so right now we're going to dedicate this week's episode to getting fired up for spring. And we're talking about things you can plant and garden and grow with right now to kind of enjoy the weather. And so to get started with,
what's the first
I'm actually going to go perennial. So a lot of the
perennial.
vegetables we always talk about tend to be kind of treated as an annual. Do you remember the difference?
Well, annuals die. They have a life cycle that perennials live year after year.
Right. Yeah. Right. So perennial means like enduring, long lasting. So the perennials are going to come back year after year. And what's kind of cool is there are some vegetables that you can grow that will do that. So some that we're going to talk about: rhubarb, asparagus, horseradish. Now I know it's not a vegetable, but we're going to get into it because these are all items that you can get kind of a bare root right now, where
so cool.
you'll get your hands on them, and they're not going to be actively growing until you plant them. So it's pretty cool. So even strawberries are one that you're seeing coming into your local nurseries now. Well, where you can actually get some that are bagged up, usually in like sawdust or like a dry medium, and then they're just kind of lifeless.
Well, let's just appreciate how cool that is right there, that you can grow these things you just mentioned.
Yes.
Rhubarb, asparagus. Whoever thinks about growing their own asparagus? I didn't till I
love asparagus.
Realize that we have that as a bare root product that you can grow your own.
And the cool thing is these are ones like you mentioned, they come back year after year. So it's not just a one and done. And so let's get into it. So rhubarb, cool season perennial. People love it. It's got like that sweet tart, those leaf stalks, almost kind of celery-like in a way.
I just see them, and they look like there's red in the stalk.
Yeah.
But at the base, it's a big, what is it, like a potato-looking thing?
No, there's a basal kind of root there that it all kind of will shoot up from. It's a geophyte, kind of like a bulb, and so it just kind of produces that. So each year you kind of cut it, harvest, it'll die back, and then it comes back as things warm up just a little bit.
So rhubarb is a perennial.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
So they can get 4 to maybe sometimes 4 feet wide when they're really mature and up to 3 feet high. And so they'll actually, one healthy plant can produce stalks for up to 8 years or more. So pretty cool. Once you get them going, they're nice. And for us to take care of them, it's pretty easy. The dormant bare root crowns of rhubarb, you can get that's what you're going to get in your nurseries right now. And it's going to be just, like I said, not actively growing. So if you get your hands on one, just give it regular water. It's going to, for us, the morning to afternoon sun is okay. But once it starts getting, if you have late afternoon sun and it gets really hot in the spring, summer, they're going to appreciate a little bit of dappled light or afternoon shade. So this is one. So morning sun, afternoon shade or dappled light, that's when they're really going to just fire on all cylinders because they're big and they're leafy. And to me, I kind of like they're almost ornamental in a way because their foliage is so robust and large. But they're great. They're a great one to grow. When you harvest them, you got to fight that temptation. Do not harvest any stalks for that first year because you want it to put a lot of energy and effort into the plant so that way it can get established. And then in the following years, you'll have a lot more opportunity to harvest those stalks and get them out. People mix them in with strawberries and other things. You'll make rhubarb pie and whatnot.
Right.
So they're cool for what I understand, from sweet and savory dishes. So that's pretty cool. So rhubarb, like I said, rich soil, morning sun, afternoon shade, and then just give it that first year a chance. Try to keep your
You gotta
appetite
be
at bay.
patient.
Yeah, be
That
patient.
might be hard for some people, but it sounds like a good investment. And then, you plant this once and then you've got 8 years of harvest.
For sure.
That's incredible.
And feed that soil. Rhubarb tends to be a heavy feeder. Like I said, it has big, robust leaves that takes nitrogen, that takes nutrients. So feed that soil. You can feed them at planting, feed them through the growing season as needed, depending upon what you choose to fertilize with. Just follow those instructions, and you should be okay. But they are a heavy feeder, so keep that in mind.
Cool. Okay,
Keep them fed. They're like me. Keep them fed, and they'll be happy.
Just like it's that easy.
Like my babies.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So you also mentioned asparagus.
Yes.
I would love to explore asparagus because I don't think we've talked about it. It's such a cool thing. I love asparagus.
Love it.
And you can grow your own asparagus. How does that work?
Well, if you want your urine to smell really interesting.
Oh.
No. Yeah. So if you want to grow asparagus at home, if you love it, it's a really cool plant. It's a popular plant. They have these tasty little spears that are actually stalks that you harvest, but the care is pretty cool. You'll get the crowns will come bare root. You plant those, just follow the directions on their package, but really simple. Just get it into really loose, well-drained soil, and I cannot stress that enough. They really appreciate good drainage. If I would have planted them in my backyard as a kid, they probably would not have done well because we had like super hard pan and I didn't know what compost was. So knowing that now, either heavily amend your soil so that way it does drain water and breathes a lot better. But honestly, you can improve all that in your chances just by getting it into a raised bed. So this is a perfect candidate. If you have a little bit of space, a nice deep raised bed, they're going to love that.
I like that.
Yeah, for sure. They grow best when they get a little bit of afternoon shade as well. So our summers are really hot. So same as the rhubarb, they can take sun. They want plenty of sun in the first half of the day. But when things are really hot in our summer, if you have some dappled light or an area in the garden that does get some PM shade, some afternoon shade, then that's a spot for it for sure. Just place those bare root crowns in a 6-inch deep trench and cover with soil until they're just buried. Water them in thoroughly, and then off you're going. The shoots will begin to appear, and then you just continue to mound the soil around them, leaving just the tips of the shoots uncovered until that trench is filled up. So kind of similar in a way to what we're going to talk about next, or pretty soon, to potatoes, where you can kind of mound it up, pile them up as they grow. And then you want those spears to grow nice and strong. They're pretty cool. They'll grow. The spears can grow on the male and the female plants. So these ones actually have. You can have a male variety of asparagus or female, but usually it's the males that are selected for growing because they will produce the stalks and all that growth that you want to eat without putting excess wasteful energy into seed production. So none of that. No reproduction needed.
Can I hone in on the mounding up part of this?
Yeah, please.
Because I've never done that, and I'm curious, what does that look like? Like, am I clearing the mulch away and then getting the soil? And how would that look? I'm wondering if you could walk me through that a little bit.
So as it begins to sprout and bud up, you'll see the shoots begin to kind of pierce through the surface of the soil, and as they continue to kind of rise in height, you can mound up the soil around those spears, leaving just the tips exposed. So you don't want to bury them again, but you let them pop through the soil, and then you can slowly mound up as they grow.
And does that's what's encouraging it to continue growing up?
Yeah.
Is that what's happening?
For sure.
Okay.
And these are plants that really do not want to battle with weeds. So they're very they're anti-weed.
So that mulch is important there. That it is there.
Well, you can use mulch, but just having rich compost in there. But if some garden beds, you're not going to have like shredded mulch or mulch that maybe might be thick enough like in your landscape. So what you might want to do is just keep on it and pull any weeds that tend to pop up as they pop up, because you don't want them to put a lot of pressure on that plant. So just keep it clear. They do not like to compete with weeds at all.
Okay. All right. Well, that sounds easy enough. It sounds kind of fun doing the mounding up. I want to give it a shot.
Mound it up, and like you mentioned, mulch it up.
Okay.
So if you got a good mulch for your garden bed, then use that. That'll help suppress the weeds. And then just pull them and pop them out before they become a problem.
And I probably don't need to add soil medium, right? I'm just gathering kind of what's there.
Just what's nearby.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. If you need, if you need to, you can. But just whatever's available to you. And they do have a lot of kind of sensitive, shallow surface roots. So if you're going in there to grip all these weeds out, and you're using your hula hoe
be careful.
or a diamond hoe or whatever, that's usually pretty aggressive. you don't want to do all that because you might be damaging some needed roots that are sensitive.
Okay. Well, I hope people start growing some asparagus. What a cool thing.
Oh, yeah, they're fun.
But you just mentioned seed potatoes. So let's maybe jump over to that because you said also there's a mounding process there.
For sure.
But let's talk potato.
I love spuds. I love taters.
Let's do spuds.
We grow them at the school. We mentioned them an episode or two back. This is something that I know, like I said, I know it's cold right now and we're thinking winter thoughts. Get that out of your mind. Start thinking spring because I know a lot of people put a lot of emphasis on their summer garden, but you can. There's a lot you can do right now in the garden to get things off to a healthy, rich, nutritious start for you, hopefully, and people that you love if you like to share your food with them. But potatoes. This is one of probably the most rewarding, easy plants to grow in a home garden. You can do them in ground. You can do them in a raised bed. You can do them in plastic pots. You can do them in fabric pots, the smart pots. You can do them so many different ways. I've seen it. It's people do straw bale style. It's pretty cool. So potatoes. What you're growing is a little formation, a reproductive organ that grows right off the root system, right? Which is pretty cool. And that's the part that we eat. It's also the same part that you plant if you want to grow more. So the other day we were planting peas with our students. Actually, another thing you can be planting right now.
Oh, yeah.
Direct seed them, peas. So it's kind of funny. All the things we talked about planting in like late September, early October, a lot of that stuff is stuff you can plant right now.
Again,
or at least pretty soon. So all the brassicas, the broccolis, the kales, all those like it. And just then we were saying you can do a late season crop of spuds. Right now is the time to do an early season crop.
Okay.
So get them planted. Some that you can. What's kind of cool about going either to your local nurseries or Green Acres is you can get cool varieties. Just to name a few that I saw at Green Acres the other day. There's Constance. There's the red Lesota.
These are potatoes?
Potatoes.
These are potatoes.
Yeah. The Sifra, the Russian blue, reds and purples, I guess blue, but rich colors, fingerlings, different sizes, ones that have really like tender skin that you can just cook them and fry them up. These are so good. So just to give you a little tasting mentally. So the Constance, it's a very high production. It's oval round shape, yellow skin and flesh, buttery flavor and smooth texture. Sounds delicious.
Yeah, it does.
So what's kind of cool too is the days to maturity. So the time you plant it and get it growing to the time you can harvest, 3 to 4 months. So most of these are 90 to 110 days. The longest one is the Russian blue, which is 100 to about 120. So that takes, almost a good 3.5, 4 months. So what is cool is you can put a lot of these in a couple spots in your garden now, and then you can actually have them harvested before you're even ready to put a lot of your warm season crops in. So that's what we do at the school sometimes. We'll do several rows of potatoes. We'll pull them out in May, end of May, and then replace them with cucumbers or basil or whatever, and mix it up and match it up because they go quick. And there's something, like I said, there's something so satisfying about unearthing just a bright red or purple potato, and it's like magic coming right out of the ground. I'm telling you. So potatoes.
And can I ask you, when you plant it, you're putting a seed potato in there.
Yes.
And you're making sure that there's an eye on it. I remember something like that. And then what happens? Like, does that one turn into multiple potatoes, or what happens again?
Well, not that one specifically. So it's pretty cool. So potatoes love full sun.
Okay.
They like kind of warm weather, not hot, not cold. So you'll know you went too cold, or if you can see damage from a cold snap because the leaves, as they emerge, they'll get damaged from the cold, so they can't handle the frost. So by the time they sprout and actually make it past the surface of the soil, you should hopefully be past frost.
Okay.
Because any frost will damage it. So keep warm weather, full sun, rich, well-drained soil. So amend your soil, use plenty of compost, and they love good drainage, and they can handle full blasting sun, no problem. But you brought up the eyes. So seed potatoes will come. They look like a normal potato, and they'll have these little dimples on there. Looks like my buns after I get out of the shower and I squeeze at the mirror.
Sure.
All the dimples. So what you can do, so sometimes you'll get a seed potato and it's so small, I'll just plant the whole potato as is.
Okay.
But if you want to have your money stretch a little bit,
you cut them.
It's nice. You can hand select them. Find the biggest ones. Get them. Maybe you can even start the chitting process by letting them just sit out somewhere where they get a little bit of indirect light, fresh air. They're protected where it's warm, but then they'll start kind of sprouting a little bit, and that kind of helps speed the process up. I will cut them into chunks, usually about 2-inch chunks. And I always like to leave at least 2 eyes on there. That way it can look straight back at me.
On each chunk.
On each chunk.
So that kind of limits where you are even able to cut.
Yes, I said
So
some are so small. You're like, ooh, if I cut a chunk, it's going to be tight.
Right.
I've tried that. And they'll sprout and kind of grow, but then you're going to get a weak little plant.
We don't want that.
So either plant a nice healthy seed potato whole, or if you have a big fat one, then you can cut it into chunks and then turn one into several. So you can definitely kind of get creative with that. So I like to plant them in rows that are a foot apart and then space the plants about 1.5 feet apart. So they need about 18 inches in almost all directions. But you can squeeze them a little bit in the row. But give them about 1.5 feet apart. They will get big. They get bushy. They're actually kind of pretty plants when they are because they grow so quick. They look super lush. So they're not a bad plant to look at either. There's so many different ways to grow them, but I'll go the old school way and just you can do them in furrows, like a little mini trench to start. You just dig a little trench. Doesn't have to be super deep, maybe 4 to 5 inches deep. Then you cut your seed potatoes as needed, but then you just plop them in, space them out, and then you just bury them up several inches of soil, just a couple. Doesn't need a lot because you're going to wait for them to sprout up and make their way past that soil. And much like the asparagus, then you can come back and mound.
Got it.
But you don't want to mound it and then just block it out completely. You still want to leave some of that growth above so it can keep growing and getting sunlight because that's how plants make their own food is by converting solar energy, sunlight into sugar essentially. And so just keep mounding as they grow. The more you mound up against those stems, they'll form roots that'll come off those stems into that soil. And that's where your new potatoes are going to develop. You mentioned, hey, is this potato going to develop? Actually, sometimes you'll pull up the whole plant and you'll see that original seed potato at the very bottom. And so that's why it's cool to do it in a furrow so you can kind of get it down in a trench. Because all the potatoes you're going to harvest will develop above that original potato, above your original seed potato. Yeah. And so that's why it's important to kind of, when you do harvest, you want to dig out around, kind of get underneath them. You don't want to lose any to your shovel. And so you want to...
Well, that makes me think. I've got a funny little side story here to share with you. I had a potato surprise at my community garden plot.
Oh, it just popped up? Yeah.
So
yes,
I was just there cleaning and weeding.
You're
basically.
like, I didn't plant that.
I did not. And there's all these leaves came out of nowhere. I was like, what is that? That's not a weed. Wait a second. What is this? I pull it up, and there's a little baby potato on it. Yeah. And I guess that had been in there for I don't know how long. It wasn't me.
That happens in our garden sometimes where we'll go through it, not so much anymore because I try to make sure I'm really thorough.
Okay.
But no, when you dig them up, sometimes because some potatoes you get will be ready to rock. They're edible. They're full size. And then maybe some were still developing, but you pull them up anyways. And so you'll see they're small, and sometimes they just get left behind. But they will sprout when the temperature is right. They'll sprout and grow. And so you see them. You can pull them out, replant them, put them somewhere. If the
Should I just let them do their thing, or
you could have let it go?
Just let it
go.
Just
let it go. Especially if it's not popping up through something you've already planted. If it's off, give it a shot. But yeah, just keep covering up as they grow. Fertilize. They are heavy feeders as well, so they're going to want really rich soil. And what's nice about them is that when you do go, it's kind of easy to know when to harvest. How some things I don't know. They're so easy because the plant will tell you it's going to start dying.
Oh, geez, that's a sign.
Which kind of stinks because if you're not sure, you're like, what am I doing wrong? I got to troubleshoot.
Right.
I'm doing too much water, not enough water. But no, if it's at the end of that 3 to 4 month life cycle, and the plant had grown and it was healthy,
it's done.
What you're going to start noticing is and almost like garlic in a way too, where the plant it just knows that its life cycle is coming to an end. They'll even see them start to flower. Actually, potato flowers are actually kind of pretty, kind of bluish purple. You'll see them flower, and they'll even create seed. You can even grow potatoes from seed. They actually have them in the seed racks at the nursery. But that's for another day. I like growing them from the seed potato because it's so quick. But it's kind of fun. You can maybe get your hands on other varieties. There's something to that. But no, the plant will literally start dying no matter what you do.
Huh.
So after that 3-4 month period, all those beautiful, lush leaves are going to start browning. The stems will start browning up. And then the plant will kind of just flop over and look almost dried out, and it'll look dead because it pretty much is. And that's when you get in there and you can kind of use your hand to dig in, or your fork, a shovel, get well underneath it, pop it up, shake all that dirt off, and then you're off and running. But potatoes, it's one of the easiest plants to grow. And then the bang for the buck is huge, I think, with potatoes. I just love growing them. And if you're gardening with anybody who's new to gardening or growing, or someone who's like on the younger, like a child or something, it's a great hook, man.
Who
it is the best.
Like potatoes?
We'll bring them in, we'll clean them up, and we'll put them right into a soup, a stew. We'll make mashed potatoes, French fries with the kids.
Oh, yeah, that's the best.
Scallop potatoes, whatever. Mashed potatoes. I've made some purple mashed potatoes before. It's pretty cool. Actually, they kind of came out blue. But they're delicious. And what's nice is all those varieties we talked about, they all taste a little different. Like the Russian blues are kind of nutty. Oh. Kind of earthy. Kind of have this like nutty flavor to them.
I'm down for that.
Really good. Yeah. So there's some delicious things out there. And I'm telling you, it's one of those ones you kind of pop somewhere. Like you could do them in containers, pots. What they really need is full sun, rich soil, even water. And dude, it's one of the easiest ones to grow. It really is.
Love that.
Love growing taters.
Nice. You were talking about kids eating potatoes. Made me think of last Halloween, Epic Gardening. Kevin, he was on our show, and he was doing a fun experiment with trick-or-treaters where he had a big bowl of candy.
I love that. I saw it.
And then he put potatoes in it, and the kids were grabbing the potatoes.
I saw it this year, and he teamed up with like another influencer.
Yeah, it was great.
I think we should do that.
Let's do it.
Because it's just, to me, it's kind of cool. Like, because they looked in like, oh, there's chocolate bar. Oh, there's some bubble gum. There's some lollipop, like king size, like real
big
stuff.
Ones, yeah.
And then you can grab that, or you can grab like a full size, like a
potato,
like a massive russet, like a huge tater. And the kids, dude, like a lot of kids were choosing the potato.
Yeah.
It made me think. It gave me hope.
I know,
It gave me hope. They're like, all right. The kid's like, yeah, I can take one. He's like, okay, I got enough candy. Yeah. So potatoes are rock,
Let's
man.
write
They're
that
so
down
good
for next Halloween.
We got to.
All right.
And I actually encourage people that are listening to maybe try that out.
Okay.
Hopefully your house doesn't get TP'd on our account, but it's okay.
Oh, jeez. All right, Kevin, it is that time, unfortunately. Thank you so much for spreading the love here and telling us about all these cool crops, rhubarb, asparagus, potato. These are fun things to grow and like really easy. You're saying it's not that hard. It's kind of fun, actually.
That's what's kind of fun about planting the crowns and the the rhizomes and all these geophytes, the tubers and whatnot.
These weird things.
Because they hold a lot of energy in them already to get started.
That's cool.
As like we talk about the seeds, in our seed video, they have a lot of energy in them. And so they're going to use that energy to get off and get growing, and they will just get right to it. And so I feel like it's a great plant to get some success on. If you have success early this spring, I feel like that's going to lead into more success.
Well, you just reminded me. We put out a video last week.
We did.
So if you guys haven't seen it, maybe I'll link to it. It's more, I think, just motivation, kind of what you're talking about, getting started for your spring season, right?
Just get going.
So
don't wait.
Me and Kevin, we made a YouTube video that I encourage our listeners to check out. And Kevin walks you through the seed starting process in a step-by-step demonstration, how to start seeds. And if that's something you're looking for, go ahead, check it out. I'll put it in the episode description. But other than that, it is time for today. And Kevin, go ahead and take us out.
Well, it may be time for this episode to end, but it's not even time to not plant seeds. So get out. It is still time to plant seeds. So please check out that video, get your hands on some seeds, and plant. I really hope you enjoyed today's podcast. But one thing I've got to like put out there before we leave Austin, and this may have to be its own episode in the future, but the bulbs are coming in. The bulbs are coming. So not just the other stuff we talked about, but something to keep on your sites is spring summer bulbs. So things like your gladiolas, your dahlias, your tuberous begonias, your freesias and whatnot, even the calla lilies, they're coming. And those are ones that are going to give you beautiful color and spring and summer, late spring and summer. And so they're just something to put out there in the ether for our listeners.
The bulb racks are about to be full.
So seeds, you got your bareroot veggies, what's not to love. Right now, I know it's winter, like I said, but man, get fired up for spring because it'll be here before you know it. And spring will soon be here. It'll be here. Better than before.
I love it.
And yesterday's gone. There we go. Well, that does it for this week, garden friends. Thank you all for being here. Have a great week. Happy gardening to you all. And please, never stop growing. We'll see you next time.